So why do you think it's so important for the data to tell you a story? And do you believe that data can make it creative for the marketer?
Absolutely. Oh, there's so much good stuff in that question. How am I going to pull it all apart? Got to remember it all. First of all, the patterns themselves are beautiful. When you just look at the data and look at it the right way, it's remarkable. And literally how pretty the pictures are, but maybe more importantly, how as we look over time or different groups of customers or different businesses entirely, how these patterns tend to persist. They really are like laws of nature. And I often kind of lose track of the fact that these are not laws of nature, but it's actually worthwhile to view them that way, to kind of assume that some of these patterns that we see are truth, and learning to be a little bit more humble, learning to understand that we as marketers can't change everything. That some of these patterns about how customers differ from each other, how they differ over time, so part of it is just that, is just stepping back and appreciating the beauty of nature, the nature of customers. And we started finding that early on. When I say we, I'm talking first of all about my first co-author, Bruce Hardy, who's also an incredible influence on me. When we started laying out some of these lifetime value models back in the early 2000s, it was Bruce who said, at some point we need to take a step back and really focus on this idea of a customer-based audit. So we actually came up with these words. Bruce Hardy came up with these words, I think back in 2004, saying that as we're establishing the models, that's all great, but we really should just step back and just appreciate what we could see in the data without having to do any razzle-dazzle math. And that's why I want people to kind of take the audit almost at face value like that. Before we even talk about the so what, before we even talk about the actions that we'll take and the money that we'll make, just to look at the pictures and then ask yourself, do these pictures apply to my company, to my customers? And when you see that they do, to start just appreciating that, and then start getting in deeper, and then to the rest of your question, start layering on some of the qualitative, some of the personas, some of the attitudinal questions. Once we start to understand that some customers just buy more often and spend more and stay with us a long time, and others are kind of flighty, how are they thinking about things differently? And what kinds of features and functions and messaging should we aim towards those more valuable customers? And basically that writes out the recipe for all of my work on customer centricity. Focus on the right customers for strategic advantage. But you can't do this until you first do this. And that's why even though this book comes 10 years later, it really is the first step. So both from just a pure aesthetic standpoint as well as an action standpoint, the audit, I think, is a great starting point.